Most really think about humans. If there is one animal that forces us to reconsider our ideas about intelligence, it is almost certainly the crow. Imagine walking through a park one morning. On a nearby branch, a crow lets out a sharp call and suddenly lifts into the air. Seconds later, 2 more appear, then 3. They do not attack. They simply watch you, following each step as if making sure they have not mistaken you for someone else. And the surprising truth is, they probably have not. For many years, researchers assumed that birds reacted to humans mostly through instinct. A person approaches a nest, the bird flies away. A person offers food, it comes closer. Everything seemed simple, automatic, shaped by evolution. Then experiments with crows changed that view. Scientists once wore specific masks while approaching and temporarily capturing several crows for research tagging. After the birds were released, they reacted aggressively whenever they saw the same mask again, even when a completely different person was wearing it. Even more astonishing, crows that had never been captured also joined the warnings. They called loudly, followed the suspicious figure, and alerted others nearby. This meant the birds were not only remembering a face, they were sharing information about it. Over time, younger crows that had never experienced the original event learned that this face meant danger. The memory no longer belonged to one bird. It became a kind of social memory, passed from individual to individual. Much like humans pass along stories about someone trustworthy or someone to avoid. To a crow, humans are not simply a nameless species. A person can become an individual with a reputation. If you regularly feed them, they may remember and become less wary when you appear. But if you create a frightening experience, that memory can shape their behavior for years. So when a crow looks at you, perhaps it is not merely seeing a human. Perhaps it is seeing a history. From a cognitive perspective, this requires far more than instinct. It requires individual recognition, long-term memory, emotional association, and the ability to predict future behavior. This is the foundation of social learning, the ability to use experience, not just reflex, to guide future decisions. And if the small brain of a crow can build a profile of individual humans, then the most astonishing discoveries may still lie ahead. Because there is another species that has walked beside us for tens of thousands of years. A species that does not merely remember our faces or voices, but can read our emotions before we speak. That species is the dog. If crows amaze us by remembering humans, dogs raise an even deeper question. What happens when an animal does not only observe us, but evolves alongside us? Unlike most wild animals, dogs do not study humans from a distance. They live inside our world. They sleep near us, follow our movements, hear our voices, and witness our emotional changes every day. That is why many scientists believe dogs may be among the clearest examples of an animal forming a mental model of humans. Watch a dog when you come home after a long day. Sometimes you have not called its name. You have not touched it. You may not even have looked at it. And yet, it already knows. If you are happy, it rushes toward you with the tails moving wildly. If you're tense, it approaches you more carefully, lifting its head to study your face. If you're sad, many dogs quietly lie beside you instead of demanding play. This is not merely something pet owners imagine. Studies show that dogs can read subtle emotional signals from humans. They combine facial expression, gaze, voice, posture, and movement to predict how we feel. When those signals change, their behavior changes too. Even many primates, our closest relatives, do not always show the same ability to follow human social cues as dogs do. This has led scientists to a fascinating idea. Domestication did not only change the body of the dog, it changed the way dogs see us. Across thousands of generations, dogs that could cooperate with humans, read our gestures, and respond to our emotions had better chances of survival. Slowly, this ability accumulated, transforming dogs into some of the greatest experts in human behavior in the animal kingdom. And the relationship works in both directions. When a person and a dog look into each other's eye in a positive emotional bond, both can experience an increase in oxytocin, a hormone associated with trust, care, and attachment. This suggests that the bond between humans and dogs has gone far beyond owner and pet. Dogs do not only read emotion, they also evaluate behavior. In experiments, dogs have watched one person help another and a different person refused to help. Later, many dogs showed a preference for the helpful individual. This does not mean dogs make moral judgments exactly as humans do. But it does show that they distinguish between different social behaviors and trust their trust based on what they observe. In the eyes of a dog, humans are not identical. Some people feel safe. Some make them cautious. Some are worth following. And others are better avoided. Brain imaging studies have also shown that dogs respond differently to familiar voices and unfamiliar voices, to praise and neutral sounds, and even to the scent of a person they love. This reveals a profound truth. To dogs, humans are not merely food providers. We are part of their social world, a world of memory, emotion, attachment, and relationships built over time. But if dogs have spent tens of thousands of years learning to live alongside humans, another species has never been domesticated, has never truly lived under our control, and yet possesses a memory so extraordinary that it continues to astonish scientists. This species is the elephant. There is a famous saying, an elephant never forgets. For many years, it sounded like little more than folklore. Today, science suggests there is far more truth behind it than we once believed. For elephants, memory is not simply about remembering a path or a watering hole. It is a survival tool. It preserves migration routes across generations, recalls droughts from decades earlier, remembers places where food was once abundant, and stores the memory of encounters with humans. When an elephant sees you, it is not responding only to the present. It may also be responding to its past. Imagine an elderly matriarch leading her herd. She has lived for more than 50 years. During that lifetime, she may have encountered thousands of people. Some simply watched from a distance. Some were conservationists who helped injured members of her family. Others carried rifles and traps, seeing ivory as something worth killing for. Every encounter leaves a mark. Those memories shape how the herd responds in the future. Behavioral studies show that elephants do not treat all humans alike. They distinguish between different groups using scent, clothing, voices, and patterns of movement. In parts of Africa, researchers have found that elephants behave far more cautiously toward groups historically associated with hunting, while remaining noticeably calmer around communities that rarely threaten them. This is learned behavior, not simple instinct, and often it is knowledge shared across an entire herd. What makes elephants truly remarkable is not memory alone, it is the emotion attached to that memory. Elephants are among the few animals that display behaviors many people associated with grief. They pause beside the skeletons of their own kind, gently touching old tusks and skulls. Mother may remain beside the bodies of lost calves for hours, sometimes even days. Scientists are careful not to claim that elephants experience grief exactly as humans do. Yet, growing evidence suggests their emotional lives are far richer than we once imagined. If memory is tied to emotion, then encounters with humans become more than facts. They become meaningful experiences. This may explain why elephant populations exposed to generations of hunting often respond to humans with far greater tension. Not because they hate people, but because experience has taught them a simple lesson. Some humans mean danger. From an evolutionary perspective, this is an exceptionally effective survival strategy. An elephant that remembers danger is more likely to survive. A herd that trusted the memories of its matriarch is less likely to repeat costly mistakes. Humans are not so different. We also pass stories to our children about dangerous places, trustworthy people, and painful lessons that should never be forgotten. Individual memories became collective memories, and collective memories shape entire societies. Perhaps that is why the distance between humans and elephants is not as great as we once believed. Both species live in the present, yet both carry the past with them. But memory is only the part of the story. There is another species that astonishes scientists in an entirely different way. They recognize individuals, call one another by unique names, cooperate in remarkably complex ways, and often approach humans with genuine curiosity. That species is the dolphin. If crows understand humans through memory, if dogs understand us through emotional bonds, if elephants understand us through a lifetime of experience, then dolphins seem to understand us through curiosity. Imagine diving into clear blue water far from shore. Everything is silent. Then a shape slowly emerges from the depth. It is not a shark, it is a dolphin. Rather than charging toward you or swimming away, it circles slowly, watching from different angles, its eyes fixed on you as though collecting information. Divers around the world describe the experience in remarkably similar words. They do not feel as though they are observing an animal. They feel as though someone is observing them. Behavioral studies support that impression. When dolphins encounter something unfamiliar, they rarely react with immediate fear or aggression. Instead, they circle, investigate, change their angle of approach, and carefully evaluate what stands before them. Humans are no exception. This strategy reflects the complexity of dolphin society. Living in large social groups requires remembering dozens, sometimes hundreds of relationships. Who cooperates? Who protects calves? Who can be trusted? To manage such a world, dolphins evolved an extraordinary communication system. Each dolphin develops a unique sequence of whistles, often called a signature whistle, like a personal name. Other dolphins remember these whistles for years and use them to call specific individuals, even after long separations. This tells us they do not simply recognize members of their species. They recognize individuals. So when dolphins encounter humans, they may apply that same strategy. They are not simply seeing a two-legged creature. They are asking, who is this? Is it dangerous? Can it be trusted? Is it worth exploring? Researchers around the world have repeatedly observed dolphins voluntarily approaching boats, swimmers, and divers. Their behavior naturally depends on previous experience and circumstance. But what makes dolphins unusual is that, in many cases, they choose to initiate the encounter. That is rare in nature. There are even documented examples of dolphins cooperating with fishermen. Along certain coastlines, dolphins herd schools of fish toward waiting nets. In return, they benefit when frightened fish scatter, creating easy opportunities to feed. No one trained them. No one domesticated them. It is simply a partnership maintained across generations because both sides benefit. Perhaps dolphins do not see humans as masters, nor as automatic enemies. In many situations, they appear to regard us as another intelligent species, one worth investigating, a potential partner, an object of curiosity, or simply another mystery drifting to the sea. From a cognitive perspective, this flexibility is extraordinary. Rather than relying on one fixed response, dolphins continually gather new information and adjust their behavior according to experience. That adaptability helps explain why they thrive in some of the most social complex environments on Earth. And when we step back, an unmistakable pattern begins to emerge. Crows remember faces, dogs read emotions, elephants preserve experience, dolphins are driven by curiosity. No species sees humans in exactly the same way, because every mind has evolved to solve different problems. Yet dolphins are still not the final chapter. Across the world, many other birds are quietly evaluating in ways that continue to surprise science. If crows are the best known example, they are certainly not the only birds evaluating. A growing body of research suggests that many bird species have evolved the ability to recognize and assess people. Not every species possesses the same level of intelligence, but across millions of years of evolution, understanding humans has become a valuable survival skill. Think about a pigeon living in a crowded city square. Every day, thousands of people pass by. Some ignore the bird, some offer food, others chase them away. Yet pigeons rarely respond to everyone in the same way. They watch how closely you approach, follow the direction of your gaze, judge the speed of and read your body language before deciding whether to remain where they are or take flight. At first glance, this may seem like instinct, but experiments suggest something more sophisticated. Several studies have shown that pigeons can distinguish between individual human faces and remember those differences over a long period. They do not simply react to humans as a category. They respond to specific people based on experience. The same pattern appears in many other birds. Magpies, for example, remember dozens and even hundreds of food catches. But they do something more remarkable. If they realize another individual has watched them hide food, they often return later and secretly move it to a new location. This behavior suggests they are processing more than the physical environment. They're considering what another individual may. Scientists describe this as a form of social cognition. Although researchers continue debating how advanced this ability truly is, it is increasingly clear that many birds do far more than react automatically. They appear to evaluate what others are looking at, what they know, and what they might do. Humans become particularly important subjects, not simply because we are large, not simply because we can be dangerous, but because we are unpredictable. The same person who feels bored today may chase them away tomorrow. One visitor stops to admire wildlife, another throws stones. For a small brain, survival depends on constantly updating information rather than relying on fixed assumptions. Perhaps that is why so many birds learn so quickly. This ability reaches another level in the African gray parrot. Decades of research have shown that properly trained parrots do far more than imitate sound. They can associate words with objects, colors, quantities, and sometimes even learn words appropriately within a correct context. This does not mean parrots think exactly like humans, but it reminds us that communication exists on a spectrum rather than behind an absolute wall. At one end lies simple signals, at the other lies a language. Countless species exist somewhere between. When we step back, what conclusion becomes difficult to ignore? From crows and pigeons to magpies and parrots, these birds followed very different evolutionary paths. Yet they all share one remarkable trait: they do not see humans as meaningless parts of the landscape. To them, we are variables, potential sources of food, possible dangers, unexpected opportunities, or individuals capable of changing their lives in a single encounter. But perhaps we are still looking at the story on too small a scale. Until now, we have focused on how individual animals perceive people. What happens if we zoom out to an entire forest, an entire grassland, or an entire ocean? What if the simple presence of humans changes the behavior of hundreds of species at once? This is where ecology introduces a remarkable concept, the landscape of fear. Originally, this term described how prey alter their behavior simply because predators exist. A herd of deer does not need to see wolves before changing its movements. Knowing where wolves might appear is often enough to influence feeding schedules, migration routes, and even the way young are raised. Fear itself can reshape an ecosystem. Today, scientists increasingly recognize that humans create a similar landscape of fear, often on an even greater scale. Camera traps around the world reveal the same striking pattern. During daylight, forests can appear almost empty. Deer disappear, wild boars vanish, large predators remain hidden, but after people leave and darkness falls, the forest suddenly comes alive. Animals emerge to feed. Trails filled with movement. The sounds of nature return. Nothing about the weather has changed. Nothing about the food supply has changed. Only one factor has changed: humans. Studies show that wildlife living near frequent human activity often shifts its biological rhythms to avoid us. Species that naturally forage during the day become increasingly nocturnal. They spend less time in open areas, cross trails more quickly, and choose longer routes simply to reduce the chance of encountering people. Perhaps the most remarkable part is that many of these changes occur even when humans are not actively hunting them. Our presence alone is enough to reshape behavior across entire ecosystems. It is a striking paradox. Humans have long imagined themselves standing outside nature, yet from the perspective of wildlife, we often function much like one of its most influential predators. Not because we always attack, but because animals can never be certain when we might. In evolution, uncertainty is often more dangerous than the threat itself. For an antelope, one mistake may be its last. Better to flee unnecessarily than fail to escape once. Better to lose a meal than lose a life. That is why something as ordinary as footsteps, An engine, or even the scent of a human can quietly change the rhythm of an entire forest. Yet fear is only half of the story. If humans represented nothing but danger, countless species would avoid us under every circumstance. Reality tells a far more hopeful story. Some animals do more than tolerate people. They actively seek us out. They cooperate with us. Some relationships have endured for generations, which raises one final question before our conclusion. If animals can learn to fear humans, can they also learn to trust us? The answer is yes. And those stories may be even more remarkable than the research on fear itself. If we look across the history of evolution, perhaps the first lesson animals learned about humans was not kindness, it was caution. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors hunted to survive, armed with stone spears, traps, bows, and eventually more advanced weapons. Humans became one of nature's most effective predators. To countless animals, seeing a human meant making one simple decision: stay or run. But evolution has never told only one story. Alongside a history of hunting is another history entirely, a history of cooperation, a history in which humans and animals gradually discovered that, under the right conditions, working together benefits both. One of the best-known examples come from Monkey Mia in Western Australia. For decades, while dolphins have repeatedly returned to the same shoreline to interact with people, at first researchers assumed they came only for food. Over time, they realized the relationship was far more complex. Not every dolphin approaches humans. Not every person receives the same response. Some dolphins appear especially comfortable with familiar individuals, voluntarily swimming closer, observing, interacting, and then quietly returning to the open sea. That trust was not created overnight. It was built through countless peaceful encounters in which both sides gradually learned that the other was not a threat. Elsewhere, deep within African forest, another extraordinary partnership has existed for generations. It is the relationship between humans and the honeyguy bird. The bird loves beeswax but cannot break open a hive by itself. Humans can. When a honeyguy discovers a hive, it calls repeatedly and flies from tree to tree, leading honey hunters toward the hidden nest. After people collect the honey, the bird feeds on the remaining wax and honeycomb. There is no ownership, no training, no contract. Only two species that over countless generations have learned that cooperation rewards them both. The examples illustrate behavioral coevolution more beautifully. Even our closest living relatives reveal a similar pattern. Chimpanzees and gorillas living in regions heavily affected by hunting become extraordinarily cautious. The slightest unfamiliar sound can send an entire group disappearing into the forest. Yet in protected reserves, where generations have grown up without persecution, researchers have documented something very different. Curiosity slowly replaces fear. Young apes spend longer watching researchers. They observe human behavior. Some even imitate simple actions before quietly returning to their groups. Not because they have forgotten the past, but because they constantly update the present. Perhaps that is one of behavioral science's greatest lessons. Animals are not trapped forever by a single memory. They learn, they adapt, they adjust, just as we do. If a crow can change its opinion of a human face, if a dog can build trust through years of companionship, if an elephant can remember both kindness and cruelty, if dolphins can approach us out of curiosity rather than fear, then perhaps there has never been one universal answer to what animals think about humans. Every encounter, every action, every choice quietly adds another line to the story that nature remembers about our species. And that leads us back to our original question. After everything science has discovered, how do animals truly see human beings? Perhaps the answer is both simpler and far deeper than we ever imagined. After everything we have explored together, perhaps the original question is no longer so easy to answer. What do animals really think about humans? The answer is, there is no single answer. To a crow, a human may be a face remembered for years, a trustworthy individual, or a danger worthy of warning the entire flock about. To a dog, we are lifelong companions with whom it has co-evolved for tens of thousands. Beings whose emotions can read through nothing more than our eyes, our voices, or the way we talk. To an elephant, a human will represent memories of compassion. Our memories of pain carry throughout an entire lifetime. To a dolphin, we may simply be a mystery worth exploring. To countless other birds, mammals, and fish, we may be a source of food, a threat, a partner, or simply one ever-changing part of the environment to which they must continuously adapt. What is truly remarkable is that very few species see us in absolute terms. Nature rarely divides the world into good and evil. Instead, it remembers, it compares, it adjusts, and it learns. And that may be what makes animals far more similar to us than we ever imagined. Throughout history, humans have often thought of themselves as the observer. We built telescopes to observe the stars, microscopes to observe cells, cameras to observe wildlife, satellites to observe the Earth. We have always believed that we are the species watching the world, but perhaps we have forgotten something. The world is watching us too. Every time a bird decides not to fly away as you approach, every time a dog quietly rests its hands on your knee when you are sad, every time an elephant calmly stands its ground instead of fleeing, or a pod of dolphins deliberately swims toward a human boat, these are not random behavior. They are the results of millions of animal minds constantly trying to answer the very same question: what kind of creature is a human? And perhaps the most thought-provoking realization is that answer is not determined by humanity as a whole. It is determined by every single encounter, every action, every small choice each one of us makes. Perhaps we will never know exactly what a crow is thinking as it looks into our eyes, or what passes through an elephant's mind when it recognizes a familiar face after years apart. Perhaps there will always remain a distance that science can never completely bridge, yet that very distance reminds us of something profoundly important. Humanity has never stood outside of nature. We have always been part of it, not because our bodies were shaped by the same evolutionary history, but because every action we take leaves its marks within the memories of countless other living creatures that share this planet with us. So the next time you walk into the forest, pass a big perched quietly upon a fence, see a dog resting beside the sidewalk, or lock eyes with a wild animal, pause for just a few seconds and ask yourself one simple question. Not, what am I looking at, but rather, what is looking at me? Because somewhere within the natural world, you may not be merely the observer. You may also be part of a story that nature will continue to remember long after you're gone. If today's journey has helped you see the natural world from a new perspective, let me know in the comments below. Which animal do you believe understands human best? And if you had the opportunity to know exactly what one species truly thinks about it, which species would you choose? If you enjoy documentaries exploring history, anthropology, human evolution, and the science behind our existence, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you will never miss our next documentary. And if you ever wondered what enabled our ancestors to become the only species capable of telling stories, passing knowledge across generations, and building entire civilizations through nothing more than sound, then our next video will take you back hundreds of thousands of years to explore one of the greatest turning points in the history of human evolution: how ancient humans first developed language. I'll see you in the next video.